PETA. 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 I can't do Lois's voice. How's it going, people? Jack here with another video here to check out a new recommendation here from the channel Moonjin, where we're talking about PETA, or the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. It's an organization that historically was trying to do some good, and they have done some good, but they have become like one of the best cases of, does any publicity equal good publicity? Because no, because they firmly deserve the maximum amount of scrutiny for all of the ills that they have caused to the animals that they claim to actually want to protect. I mean, PETA shouldn't even be legally allowed to run animal shelters if they are putting down over 80% of the animals that they take in on these. That's something that I remember from some years ago as a stat when I was looking back into it. So I am all for the ethical consumption of meat, okay? We eat ecological all the time, and I try to get my own meat from different sources. Like the other time we went hunting and we took the kids with us to get them to see where meat actually comes from, and actually have supported some vegans causes in the past, because I get it, okay? We love animals, and unnecessarily hurting animals is something that is very wrong. But I think that even the biggest animal lovers should be aware of when it is that they are causing harm. And wow, just this simple idea of saying this, I know for certain that a clip of Hassan Piker is going to be featured in here, or the American Turkish riding. No, like stuff like factory farming sucks, right? The mistreatment of animals is even worse. But again, we have clear distinctions of what we treat as pets and what we treat as animals for consumptions. And I know, depending on regions, countries, and nations, stuff like that tends to differ, but that's why we have discussions and why we try to make sure that we have laws set in place so that abuse does not happen. What you do not do is to become a bloody extremist, which is of course what we're going to be witnessing with today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Typically, when you see someone abuse a pet or animal on the internet...
Ah, my God. Look, I'm not gonna comment on this thing. I'm not, okay? People have their opinion on this bullshit that was transpiring there, but I'm staying out of it. I don't carry any water for this dude, but I think that it was extreme the way that everybody was after this guy's neck. But let's continue.
Then chances are you'll probably see someone in the comments somewhere saying, "Call PETA." In fact, one could even argue that this has been a thing on the internet for as long as we can remember.
I remember League of Legends with Udia, the wandering hermit, who was making the funny joke of, if PETA asks, this first thing.
But what is PETA anyway? Well, it stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. What a wonderful name for an organization. Okay, well, what do they fight for? Animal rights? That's awesome. Well, not quite. Here's how they describe their own mission on their website. Animals are not ours to experiment on, eat, wear, use for entertainment, or abuse in any other way. Okay, kind of extremist, right? The idea that no one's allowed to eat animals, that's definitely interesting, but most people can definitely agree with the other parts. But
well, were you to be a vegan, I think that the ethical treatment and then non-consumption of animals isn't coming across as an extremist thought at all. I get that. I don't agree with that, but I understand where it comes from, extending that humanity to other living beings.
How is it that an organization like this managed to make so many generations of people be aware of its existence? How does it have such a monopoly over the topic of animal rights? Well, it's actually all thanks to their marketing strategy. You see, ever since PETA was created in the 1980s, they knew that people had bigger worries than wondering where animals came from and how they were processed in factories. So to truly get their message across, their strategy has always been to grab headlines by any means necessary.
Yep. And that's the thing. They were basically doing, at some point, I want to say about the early 2000s, the same thing that a lot of content creators are doing today, just straight up rage bait. Which I'm not gonna lie, in certain occasions, that can be a tactic worth using if you actually have facts behind it to back up your arguments afterwards. But when you straight up commit crimes, then what's the point?
For decades, PETA would be synonymous with ridiculous marketing campaigns. This right here is one of the most famous examples. A group of naked women laying in coffins in public saying they'd rather be caught dead than wear animal fur. Things like this became an important part of PETA's DNA, and it would help them spread awareness about their cause and their organization to multiple generations. But that's, of course, until Gen Z came along. A generation that kind of grew up understanding what they were, but by the time they became adults, became so desensitized by the internet that nothing really shocked them anymore. PETA had used the same strategy for decades now.
That's true. I want to say that if we go back to the timeline here, I'm not a Gen Z because I was born in 1995, so I'm like a late millennial. But of course, we do share a lot of similar sentiments here. But while the generation gap there definitely does reflect some of the thing that he said about shock value, I will say that Gen Alpha truly is the generation that stopped caring. Not in terms of they actually don't give a shit about the world. No, they definitely do. They have way more opinions and are way more front about how they feel about things than we were. I will say that some of us were still raised with the millennial and or Gen X ideas of kind of keeping certain things to yourself and not even discussing stuff like politics and or the state of the world, stuff like that. But for Gen Alpha, given that the cycle of things just are accelerated so bloody fast, they're experiencing something similar to, I would say, what the baby boomers went through, where things were actually moving really fast. They will move from one topic to another just at a blink of an eye.
By the internet, that nothing really shocked them anymore. PETA had used the same strategy for decades now, shock and boldness. The problem with this strategy, though, is that over time, for it to remain effective, every campaign you make has to be more shocking than the previous one. And more importantly, the line between bull chalk and rage bait is extremely thin. And for years now, PETA has been absolutely clueless about the fact that they have crossed it a while ago.
Are you kidding me? My body isn't your sushi roll. I wonder how Japan reacted to this, because, okay, one, it's not straight up like a cultural thing that they should be offended by, but one is AI generated, which is bloody stupid, so at least like try to do the typical things that you tend to do of making like, I don't know, a collage, or actually hiring an artist to create something similar for you to do. And artistic rendering, bruv, a brown trout in sushi? You let AI hallucinate.
Now, PETA has been absolutely clueless about the fact that they had crossed it a while ago. They had essentially gone from very bold marketing campaigns that no one had ever done before to now posting an AI-generated image of a fish being cut into sushi, calling it artistic rendering, and being community noted.
This badly made AI image shows a brown trout which you would never find in roaming kelp forest. Additionally, brown trout is hardly ever used in sushi. Yes, pick up a bloody book, man. I have a book on how to make Japanese food. It's very good.
That's just plain embarrassing. For years now, this has been PETA's reality. They're nothing more than just rage baiters, and they failed to see that. They've completely lost the plot. And speaking of losing the plot, it turns out that PETA actually enjoys killing animals more than rescuing them. After numerous investigations spanning across multiple years, many have been able to conclude that PETA enjoys killing animals way more than just putting them up for adoption and finding them a new loving home. Why?
Ingrid Newkirk, yeah, that's the founder of PETA, has called pet ownership an abysmal situation. She further elaborated on her goal for destroying the human-pet bond. What? If people want toys, they should buy inanimate objects. If they want relationships, they should seek it with their own kind. But what do you mean? How dumb are you? It is so weird because this is literally a person whose origin story, as she started it with her boyfriend Alex something, whose last name I can't remember. They found like kittens and were going after the local shelters that were treating the animals badly. So they did take care of animals. They had that relationship with animals. So what the fuck are you talking about? I think that the symbiosis of ancient Egyptians, as they figured out how to protect their corn by letting cats in to protect the grain, was a bad thing? You think that when back then, when I used to still have my cat, for the many people who might be wondering where my cat is at, actually, when we moved to a new place, my partner thought that it would not be a great idea to have a cat indoor that did not have the ability to roam outside in the farm all the time. And while I did disagree and actually wanted to go on walks with her, my pet that is, perhaps my girlfriend also if she wants to, I did cede to that, and we gave her a new home. There was a new American family that moved into our neighborhood, and they got Nini. But acts like this are people acknowledging that pets are not just they're not toys. We are the caretakers. A lot of us are treating them like we're our own kids, like they are our family.
Because they believe owning a pet dog is slavery. I wish I was kidding. Don't believe me? Well, the founder of PETA herself said that pet ownership is an abysmal situation and argued in a 2014 interview that outdoor cats should just be killed. It's better for them.
What do you mean? Oh my god. Okay, this is making me rage. And I used to have in my own apartment when I still was studying, there were like neighborhood cats that I used to feed, and they would like have the general meeting in front of my place, and neighbors used to find that fucking hilarious that I was the one willing to give them so much food, which of course attracts all of the local strays. But man, when I read statements like this, I just want to smack some sense in these people.
By now, and we're still in the intro of this video, you're probably wondering, okay, how the hell does this organization even still exist? And how can it possibly get any worse? Well, recently, PETA decided that killing animals is not enough. They decided to openly tarnish the legacy of a dead animal. And the backlash that they experienced was biblical. You see, Silence Suzuka was a Japanese...
I'm sorry. Oh god, I almost choked on myself there. I couldn't quite get the thumbnail. Obviously, Munjin has covered a lot of this type of thing, VTuber stuff, of course, video games. Of course. I didn't think of that.
Japanese racehorse with an unrivaled legacy. I mean, he was extremely fast and well known globally to anyone who followed horse racing. However, in 1998, his life ended after a tragic injury on the track. What really made Silence Suzuka stand out during that incident, though, is that even though he was in horrendous pain, he didn't flip out, he didn't try to injure his jockey, no. He silently went to the side of the track, dropped off his jockey, and when he was sure that his human rider was safe, proceeded to collapse.
Oh.
Yeah, he was one hell of a horse. Now in 2021, the mobile game Musume Pretty Derby would come out in Japan. It would be an anime horse girl racing game, with every one of these anime girls representing a famous Japanese racehorse. This game would prove to be extremely successful in Japan, would release globally in 2025, and would make billions of dollars. And one of the horses that was immortalized as an anime horse girl was none other than Silence Suzuka. In fact, Musume would even have an anime, and Silence Suzuka would make an appearance there too. So as you can see, this was a very well-beloved and very well-respected horse to this day.
Oh boy. Oh my god, you fucked around and found out, PETA. If there's one group of people that you do not mess with, it's horse girls. And given that Musume turned the boys into horse girlies, you got an army of militant people who are willing to, in kind, answer your extremism. In other words, you done goofed.
So what the hell could have PETA possibly done to create a worldwide backlash? Did they pay their respects to this wonderful animal that showed incredible compassion to humans in its final moments? Of course not. They instead would post a disgusting image of the anime horse girl version of Silence Suzuka with a grotesque leg injury where you can see the bone protrude outside of the skin, arguing that if the game was honest, your favorite horse girl wouldn't get any comeback arcs.
Wait a minute. In real life, the horse Silence Suzuka suffered a catastrophic injury in a race and was euthanized. I don't think that if the horse had protruding bones, it could have been able to, just as Moonjin explained before, let its rider off and walk to the side like that. But perhaps that's just me. And second, aren't you the ones who are like very, very well known for euthanizing animals? PETA?
Failed event and the race is over, just like what happened to the real Silence Suzuka. Now look, PETA had been fucking around for years and had faced barely any consequences. This time though, they fucked around and they found out. Because not only did this post get viewed 16.4 million times, not only are there 11,000 replies completely shitting on their entire existence, not only did this post get community noted, but it even prompted a Japanese politician to speak out on this disgusting behavior, as well as the owner of Silence Suzuka. Guys, this was probably one of the worst things PETA could have ever done to their reputation. More and more people are looking into the fact that they're killing more animals than they're saving, with Japanese people in particular finding out the true nature of this company rather than thinking that they actually fight for animal rights. And unlike their usual rage bait, this time there were many people that destroyed the hell out of PETA with facts and logic. Actual real arguments that show that Musume Pretty Derby did a million times more than PETA could ever hope to achieve. It was hilarious seeing this disgusting organization get pummeled to oblivion, and so that's why I thought I had to make a video about this. So you already know the drill. Let's do this.
Okay.
All right, so look, as I mentioned in the intro, PETA gained prominence, or I should say relevancy, due to its shocking and bold marketing campaigns like this one right here. If dogs tasted like pork, would you eat them? What's the difference? Go vegan, showing the image of a dog with a pig's head. By PETA's own standards though, this was definitely soft.
Like, they did gain notoriety with actual good work, like the good old Silver Spring, what was it, primate research facility story. I'm calling it good old, like, was I there? But where monkeys were being used to undergo neuroplasticity experiments. And that was a good thing that they uncovered, right? Just like how we have had stuff like here in Denmark where minks were absolutely slaughtered during the COVID pandemic. There are things like that are worth mentioning and bringing out to the world. And that undercover investigation, its pictures, led to the first ever case of animal cruelty trial, that is, being conducted ever. And that was in like 1981. So it led to something good. Later on, I think that a year after, we had something in the UK in 82. I can't quite remember what that case was about. But regardless of which, they actually led to a new movement. So some good things being done. But then all of that changed, of course, because of rage bait. You can't go that path, okay? It is destructive. People need to stop doing that.
Showing the image of a dog with a pig's head. By PETA's own standards though, this was definitely soft. You see, one of the first instances of extremely shocking yet somewhat bold marketing campaigns was as far back as 1991. Back then, one of America's most infamous serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer, was captured. Jeffrey was someone who had captured 17 males and, well, got rid of their limbs. He would then place them in the fridge and eat them later, because guess what? The guy was a cannibal. What would PETA do? Well, they published a newspaper advertisement pretty much likening meat packers to being exactly like Jeffrey Dahmer, someone who killed 17 human beings. Now today, if this happened, no one would really care, but back then, people cared a lot. This caused unprecedented commotion, and it was exactly what PETA wanted. From their point of view, their mission is to get animal rights messages out to as many people as possible, which is why they try to make their actions colorful and controversial. Colorful is a very interesting word.
Yeah,
all in the hopes of grabbing as many headlines around the world and spreading the message of kindness to animals to thousands, sometimes millions of people. They would then gloat that this approach has proved to be amazingly successful, and you know what? To their credit, initially it was. For the first 2 decades after PETA was established, they would spread awareness over some extremely inhumane conditions that many animals faced in different areas, whether it be factories, farms, or hell, even government agencies. the outrage following these
There it
investigations
is.
would help new
Silver
laws
Spring.
be put in place. Laws that would either help animals get treated better or straight up shut down.
Listen, if you ever get to watch these images, they will haunt you for the rest of your life. They were so nasty.
Labs or agencies that would mistreat them. However, not all good things last forever, and at some point, PETA would lose the plot entirely. In fact, after my research, I can personally conclude that they had officially lost the plot by 2003, when they would release their newest marketing campaign.
Oh, God.
Holocaust on a Plate. And yes, it is as horrible as it sounds. In fact, here's a sign that you would find at this exhibition. On the left, you would see a Holocaust victim that went through famine, and on the right, you would see a cow that went through famine. I don't think it would take a genius to understand that Jews back then were extremely angered by such a marketing campaign.
Are you fucking kidding me? Don't get me wrong, this is wrong, okay? We've had discussions in the past, even in schools, about the aforementioned meat packaging. It can be pretty freaking brutal, and the way in which farm animals are treated. And we conducted some recent stuff here in Denmark about how even the stuff that we call ecological or økologisk, which are supposed to be the less environmentally harming produce that don't get infested with too much, with any pesticide, technically speaking here, although you can't actually avoid that completely. But that and also the free roaming animals are not actually as green as we thought them to be. And so once you finally get into investigating the kind of things, it makes you reconsider the amount that you are consuming yourself and the way that animals actually are treated, leading you to wanting to do things in the old way sometimes. But at the same time, you also do understand the necessity of having to mass produce certain things to feed a lot of people. But this, which likely this very image here, I would assume would have occurred because of environmental concerns and not so much because of a freaking Nazi trying to kill his fellow Homo sapiens. No, don't go there.
Likening the suffering of so many people in World War II to the idea of eating meat. I mean, come on. And at a certain point, this would just get old. People wouldn't take them as seriously anymore. Around almost a decade later in 2014, PETA would release a marketing campaign in which they say that dog breeders are literally the Austrian painter, releasing a poster of a dog with the infamous, well, mustache.
Now, I gotta admit, anybody who's making pugs and or breeding those dogs with like way too many folds, I don't stand behind that. We're literally having animals that are, they're unable to breathe. They literally have issues being alive, okay? There are some dog breeds there upon whom the human affliction truly has been severe. But I wouldn't go to the length of literally calling those people Hitler.
And if you thought that wasn't bad enough, on the same year, if you went to PETA's website, you'd be greeted with, got autism? Studies have shown a link between cow's milk and autism.
What? Was PETA sponsored by RFK Jr.? Just asking.
Now, this confused the hell out of people, and it could mean one of two things. The first possibility is them saying that cow's milk causes autism, which is extremely incorrect. There's nothing in any way, shape, or form proving that. And the second possibility is them saying that only autistic people drink cow's milk, which I don't need to sit here and tell you sounds really bad. Pretty much saying that there's something very wrong with autistic people, which isn't the case. They're just people. You see what I meant in the intro? Once you make shocking statements, the only way to keep
you
people's
always have to
attention
escalate.
is to somehow make a shocking statement more shocking every single time. But with the line between shocking and rage bait being so thin, yeah, it's no surprise by this point people thought PETA was a joke. Their stupid antics were starting to alienate vegans from
come on! Are you serious? Tofu never caused a pandemic. Bruv, I will cast COVID onto you right now. like a freaking D&D spell. Dumbasses.
Target audience. I mean, mid-pandemic in 2020, when people were wrestling with the fact that they had to be isolated for God knows how long, PETA comes out and says, oh, hey, yeah, this happened because of you meat eaters. Tofu never caused the pandemic. Dude, shut the fuck up. Now, yes, this stupid attempt at rage bait is definitely funny. And while I'd love to just sit here and laugh, unfortunately, when it comes to PETA, their existence is actually a problem, especially if you like animals. You see, this organization is nothing more than just a group of extremists. In 2017, 2 PETA employees would kidnap a 9-year-old's chihuahua. They assumed that it was a stray that needed to be euthanized because, of course, they hate the idea of putting up a dog for adoption. However, state laws say that they have to hold the pet for 5 days to make sure there's no owner that, well, will come and claim it. They chose to ignore that rule and euthanize this poor chihuahua within the same day.
Aren't they the motherfuckers who were complaining about euthanasia just a few minutes ago? Oh God, I hate it. It's typical. Rage baiters never apply their own rules. They've crossed the Rubicon of understanding and it's like all quiet on the frontal lobe.
The family ended up suing the organization and PETA paid them $49,000 to settle. But that poor girl is probably traumatized for life. But I wish that was the worst thing they'd done. In 2005, 2 years after their completely tone-deaf Holocaust marketing campaign, some people would start noticing that the dumpsters behind a supermarket in North Carolina was filled with dead animals, specifically cats and dogs.
Oh,
it turned out it was none other than PETA. The 2 employees in question would be acquiring these pets by lying to veterinarians, telling them they're going to put them up for adoption, and then just euthanizing them in the same day in the back of their van. The veterinarian who had given these pets to PETA thinking they would get adopted would later say they were in good health and were very adoptable, especially the kittens. It was tragic, and yet PETA was able to get away with this because of a stupid law in the US that says that PETA and other shelters are allowed to kill owner-relinquished animals for virtually any reason at any time without any effort to find them homes. But
this eerily sounds like the Smithsonian's. Like, hey, we can take like native lands and take your shit. According to the US law, you cannot sue us or do anything against us because it's codified. Like, what the f***? I'm sorry. This is getting me agitated.
Of course, politicians don't care about actual important matters like this. And finally, if you want something a bit more recent to truly show you how disgusting PETA is, then look no further. This was a study published in February 4th, 2025, examining the rate of death of animals in PETA shelters in the year of 2024. Now, PETA is established...
that's Norfolk. I saw Norfolk. Oh, for fuck's sake, it's Norfolk, Virginia. I thought they were going to be mentioning the best place in the UK. Sorry about that.
Of death of animals in PETA shelters in the year of 2024. Now, PETA is established in the state of Virginia. The average rate of euthanasia for all agencies in Virginia is 10%. That means that 90% of their animals find a new home. They successfully get adopted, with 10% being euthanized, which is reasonable. Some cats or dogs they might find on the street might have a very bad disease, they could be on their last legs, and giving them euthanasia is the most humane thing to do. That way they don't squirm in pain for the rest of their lives. PETA, on the other hand, euthanizes 64% of their dogs, 69% of their cats, and 67% of all animals in general that are held in their shelters. Think about this for a second. Only 30% somehow find a new home. The majority find themselves dead.
And here's the thing, what are they doing with the meat? They're certainly not eating it. Then what the fuck, man? What's the point? What are you doing? Now, I'm not saying that they should be eating cats and dogs. Okay, this is not a Chinese wet market, but what the
Does that seem like an organization that likes animals to you? I mean, look at this. In 2014, they euthanized 96% of their cats. Very interesting, right?
Yeah, I had the 80% figure there from another statistic that I read not too long ago, but 90, Jesus Christ.
She's seeing that the founder of PETA has already expressed the fact that stray cats shouldn't exist. In other words, they should all be killed. I mean, I just find this so disgusting, but also so fascinating. PETA always likes to ignore the fact that humans and animals are fundamentally different, which is why we shouldn't eat them. Does that mean we should euthanize 69% of children that are currently in shelters waiting to be adopted by a family? I wonder what this failure of an organization would say.
Give a PETA employee one day in Istanbul, and watch them squirm. The City of Cats, or what is that island called in Japan? Aoshima Island. Put them there and watch. God. Oh man, this is making me mad.
Oh wait, I actually know exactly what they would say. One look at their social media in 2025 and the only thing you'll find is rage bait. That's what they still thrive on. They want views, they want relevancy at any cost, no matter how stupid they might look in the public's eyes. And it's that same exact philosophy that made them fuck around and find out when it came to one of the most loyal communities on the internet. And it resulted in them wiping the floor with PETA's pathetic ass.
The horse
This all
girls.
brings us back to the game Musume Pretty
Oh yeah,
Derby.
shit, it
Available
won.
both on PC and
Best mobile
it
game.
pretty much took over the world this year. In fact, if you were able to catch the Game Awards recently, then you would have seen that it actually won Best Mobile Game. The same company behind that very successful game that's generated billions of dollars to date is also behind its extremely successful anime series. All the horse girls in the anime and the game are actually based off their real-life counterparts. This was only possible to do after
God.
getting direct approval from each one of their owners. But that's not
Oh,
all, of course.
okay, that's
They weren't just
good.
able to make an awesome game, some great anime, and respect the medium. Horse racing has been a dying sport for years now, and they were able to revitalize the entire industry by bringing in such a huge amount of young people that are now interested in it thanks to the game and anime.
It's very much like how Rising Impact and Birdie Wings brought some youngins to the golfing world. You can hit 18 holes and still go and play golf.
In fact, the developer, Cygames, wouldn't just support horse racing directly by sponsoring multiple events, they would also make it a point to support retired racehorses, making sure that they're not neglected and encouraging fans to donate to them. In fact, ever since Musume Pretty Derby had come out in
that's
Japan
nice.
and then eventually came out globally, the Retired Horse Association of Japan, who takes care of all retired racehorses, has seen a massive surge in donations. I mean, look at this. They had created a fundraiser back in October to create a memorial for multiple retired horses that had passed away recently, and they were
6
able to
million
raise
yen.
6.3 million yen out of their 10 million yen goal. Before
That's cool.
Musume, people didn't really care that much about retired horses. Now they do. Isn't that awesome? Now, with all this info in mind, and this is me barely scraping the surface, by the way, how much worse does this post from PETA actually sound now? Going after a developer and a game that has done more for horses than they could ever even conceive. I mean, what a desperate cry for attention.
Let me guess. The post is likely wrong, factually as well. It was community noted, right?
Replies would of course immediately point this out, like this one that ratioed the original post by like 5 times, saying Musume does more to the welfare of the horses it honors than misleading and self-serving posts like this do better or be quiet. I mean, not a single one of these 11,000 replies were positive. They were just shitting on PETA's entire existence. The audacity for an organization that euthanizes 70% of its animals to talk about euthanasia is wild.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this was a severe leg injury that Silence Suzuka experienced on the racetrack. Once that happens to a horse, they are guaranteed to die a slow and painful death. Euthanasia here was actually, unlike PETA's shelters, humane. But they've lost the plot since 2003. Reasoning with them is pointless. But people decided to quote tweet them anyway because why not? They're clowns, they deserve it. This person would say the irony is that Musume itself is responsible for the increase of the Retired Horse Racing Association's donations and care for the animals. Just this year, between Versailles Farm, Northern Farm, and Nice Nature, which are 3 different horses, they raised over $1 million combined, spread purely by the fans' love of the horses. Here we can see a chart of Nice Nature's birthday donation trends, and as you can see, there is a massive uptick in donations after Musume Pretty Derby had come out. I mean, it would go from 1,700,000 yen to 35 million after the game had come out. That's a multiplication of almost 35 times, and it kept rising higher and higher, reaching 74 million in 2024. But yeah, let's make a disgusting drawing instead, criticizing the game instead of helping. I mean, PETA has no idea just how much Japanese people in general, including the voice actress of Silence Suzuka herself, hold respect for these horses. In an interview, she was literally crying over Silence Suzuka's memory, wondering if she could properly convey the spirit of this legendary horse. Do PETA employees cry when they euthanize 70% of their animals for no reason? That's a rhetorical question.
God, can you imagine if they did that to a Mongolian horse? Oh God. Or like a very famous a British equestrian's horse, dude, they will get the royal family on their ass. You just hear hordes of Mongols going.
And then, of course, comes the very embarrassing community note that came in different languages. This is the Japanese one. It would say, "This is hate speech." Might be a bit of a rough translation. Anyway, although the game Musume Pretty Derby is in no way opposed to PETA's philosophy of establishing and defending animal rights, this post provokes those involved with the game. Reference about PETA. So that link is meant to show you that PETA's philosophy is to stand against anyone opposed to animal rights. Cool. Then it goes on to say, this post violates the guidelines of Musume Pretty Derby by denigrating the honor and rights of others, making it an antisocial post that does not follow the rules, like guidelines for derivative works of Musume Pretty Derby. So
as far as I remember, Musume is actually one of those games that I actually can very much appreciate in that, okay, unlike certain gacha games, because that's what it is, they do not condone the making of like lewd art, because these are horses that you're supposed to respect. Keep it to Rule 34. That's not what a fandom is supposed to be about.
So here we get linked to the website of Musume, outlining their terms of service for fan works. In a nutshell, you can create fan art, you can create fan merch, you can do all those things, but they cannot be political, they cannot be sexual, and they sure as hell cannot be gory or disturbing. That's exactly what PETA was doing. And finally, the community note would say, provocative posts intended to attract attention also have an aspect of spam and therefore violate X's terms of service. This also would be echoed by the community note in English, saying Cygames guidelines strictly prohibit violent or grotesque depictions of Musume characters to respect the real horses. Using the IP for political advocacy or commercial gain is a direct violation of their derivative work guidelines.
Grotesque.
So seeing this, Twitter was overjoyed, begging Cygames to sue the ever-living shit out of PETA, saying that there's approximately 5 different violations of Musume community guidelines and actual grounds for a hefty lawsuit.
God, this gives me the feeling of how we're currently all asking for Nintendo to do something, but we know they won't.
I think it was safe to say at this point that no one was siding with PETA. But we're not just talking about the English-speaking audience here. This travesty had reached Japan, and the damage to their image there became catastrophic.
Ooh.
A Japanese politician by the name of Kurishita Zenko, who used to be a part of the Japanese Metropolitan Assembly, would catch wind of this, and he would have something to say. It would be in Japanese, so here's the translation. He'd say, PETA, the world's largest animal rights organization, has suddenly made the following post using illustrations from Musume, sparking controversy. It already has a community note attached, stating it violates content guidelines, but we must recognize that just because it's a massive international organization doesn't necessarily mean it's fair, in reference to following the rules. He'd then reply to his own post, continuing, saying, PETA's incoherent accusations against Nintendo are still fresh in our memory. It almost feels like they're targeting Japanese content. Surely there are other things they should be doing to protect animals. He would continue further, referencing the article about the pet chihuahua we just saw earlier, saying, thank you for the information. I couldn't believe my eyes. Not many people in Japan know what kind of organization PETA is, so we should take this opportunity to spread the word. See how much damage this did? Look, this philosophy of bad publicity is always good publicity? No.
Yeah.
Japan was under the impression that PETA actually stood for animal rights. Now they're finding out what kind of organization they truly are. In other words, they fucked around and they found out. But the finding out part wasn't over just yet. That's because out of nowhere, the owner of the late Silence Suzuka would say, in a quote,
go to hell, you shitty organization.
Go to hell, you shitty organization.
That's good.
This would get 3 million views, 75,000 likes.
Straight to the point.
Full support for this guy, and he's totally right. Someone would reply to the owner's post saying, I remember Suzuka's fracture being a comminuted fracture where the broken bones didn't protrude out, not an open fracture like in that organization's picture where the bone is visible from the outside. But was I wrong? The owner would say, that's right. In other words, PETA was straight up lying. That's not how the fracture looked.
Yeah, there it is.
No. Someone else would reply with, is this the group that was saying about Mario Kart's cow putting a nose ring on it as a symbol of livestock? This was in reference to what the politician had said earlier, that they had tried to go after Nintendo for this Mario Kart character. Like, how ridiculous is this? Their marketing campaign said, let cow race free, remove her nose ring. Like, surely there must be more important things to do. A few days later, the owner of the late Silence Suzuka would quote tweet the tweet we just saw where he called PETA a shitty organization and say, "The resentful voices from all over the world against that shit organization group are intense. Seriously, what the hell did they do to get hated this much? Lol." Well, the Japanese people are slowly finding out, aren't they? In fact, my favorite tweet in all this, okay, was this guy going back to that dog AI-generated image of a fish being turned into sushi, quote tweeting it and saying, "It's honestly hilarious how the obese fast food nation that's all about burgers is nitpicking Japanese sushi."
Ouch.
PETA wasn't just ruining their reputation worldwide, they were also ruining the American reputation worldwide. Not that it was very good to begin with, but still, it's not like they need more negative shit. Overall, this whole thing was an absolute mess, and it only served
Jump him. The whole wide of the world. He'll jump him.
to make it known that PETA is terrible. Now everyone is starting to get aware of this. This was one of the worst decisions the social media team of PETA could have taken. And now people are simply begging Cygames to sue the ever-living shit out of them. I usually try to stay neutral in my videos, but dude, even I'm hoping that happens, okay? I truly want to see that. That would be so cool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching until the end. If you're interested in the entire history of Musume Pretty Derby and how it came to be, as well as how it helped to revitalize the entire horse racing industry, then make sure to check out the video I made about it a few months ago called The Chaotic History of the Horse Game That Took Over the World. And if you want to get a healthy alternative to an energy drink,
the irony of an organization that says that people should not hold pets. Pets belong in nature to be natural, while at the same time making use of AI that is literally draining the waters and polluting the environment and destroying animal habitation. Huh? Like, good lord, you have got to be mental to continue in following something like that. Like, I get it, you can do animal advocacy, but try not to tie yourself to this type of extremism. It's just wrong. Now, if it is possible that PETA might actually have done some positive things in the recent years, that's the things that they should be focusing on, okay? There might still be a reason as to why some people get attracted to still wanting to work for them. I don't understand why just yet, but there might be. But with what we've been presented so far, it looks pretty bad. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, please do make sure to go and subscribe to the Musume channel if you would like to. Give him a like, at least for this very video. And of course, do the same here. Give me an interaction. Let me know your thought about it in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to see some more of my content, subscribe. Wish you all to have a wonderful day, great holidays and Christmas if you don't come back here to the channel before then, and see you guys on the next one. Bye.